Big Al's Rant with Cayden McFarland, powered by Jack Cassee Ford.
OU's lockdown corner locked up. All Big 12 defensive back Jordan Thomas spent part of his weekend in the Grady County Jail. Failure to appear in court the charge. Thomas ticketed for speeding back in July, never bothered to pay or show up for court. This guy had been suspended twice this year. He is their best cover corner. Zach Sanchez gets a lot of the awards. Jordan Thomas is the better player. They need him. As minor as the speeding charge is, you got to imagine he's going to be eligible to play.
How tough is that? Pay attention.
Nobody
Just
likes to.
what OU needed to start their playoff bowl week.
The Stoopses are pulling their hair out with this kid.
How can they be so stupid? Stupid.
Yeah. There is no defense. Just write the check, man.
Stupidity
write the check
runs
and
rampant.
send it. Yeah.
Runs rampant.
You've
this
had a
time of
speeding
year.
ticket or two in your time.
Yeah, but I paid it.
You pay those up. That's right.
I paid them
Every
on time.
100%
I did
of
go
the
to
time.
court once.
Did you? Contested?
Oh, I was so mad that I got a speeding ticket on the way back from a Dallas Cowboy game, and I wasn't covered. I had my family with me. We went to the Cowboy game for fun. So we're driving back from Frisco, and he pulls me over saying I'm going 85, and I'm not even close. So I had a semi-argument with him. I said, show me your radar. He couldn't show it to me. He said it was malfunctioning. So I set up a court date in Frisco, Texas. They call me to say the judge can't be there, so we have to change another date. What date do you think you can make it? So I look at the baseball schedule, see when the Yankees are in Dallas. And so I set it up. So then I did my Perry Mason. I went in and fought for myself.
Are you want to know?
And here's how I got half off. The cop, because I drove to the Frisco Police Department in my F-150.
Yep.
But when I was driving and got the ticket, I was driving my wife's Taurus.
Okay.
So when I get to the court and the police officer said I pulled over an F-150, and I'm going ding, 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 I got him because he's got the wrong vehicle. So I, like an idiot.
That's funny.
Well, wait, like an idiot, I object in the middle of the testimony, and the judge says it's too late. So the attorney, the DA, asked the officer, "Are you sure that was a 150?" No, it was a Taurus.
I have never heard that story from you. That's fantastic. Check the Yankee schedule.
I got half
and
off.
And you're one
come to find out, the judge went to OU Law School.
Hey,
and then he asked me all about how OU season was going to be the next day.
I'm going to have you
then
represent
from there,
me.
we went to the Yankee game.
I'm going to have you represent me the next time. I'll make one. Let me say one thing
Sorry
quickly.
I wasted all that
Yeah,
time.
we wasted a lot of time. I'll waste a little more. To our guys in production, if you could throw us up on the monitors, that would be great. But if not, don't worry. We'll just talk and talk and talk. All right, Baker Mayfield. Today he was named a second-team All-American by the Associated Press. He's brought in a whole bunch of awards over the last week, but this was last night. The Heisman, Alabama running back Derrick Henry winning the Heisman Trophy. Baker Mayfield doesn't even make the trip to New York, a distant fourth. You asked the question, did he get screwed?
I asked the question.
Yeah. But I'm turning it around.
Did he get screwed by not getting a trip to New York? Did he get screwed by not getting a trip to New York? Perhaps. The more the merrier. I can't believe they're on a budget.
Why not five guys?
But as it turns out,
he was a distant
the voting,
fourth.
he was a distant fourth.
Are you surprised by that? Maybe that's the better question.
Yes, I'm a little bit surprised at that, but I think the Big 12 did him in because the Big 12 didn't schedule OU to play in the last week of the season.
Sure.
See, another reason to blame the Big 12 for everything.
A lot of these guys have their votes in even before that game is played. That's one. A lot of people say just too many voters out there.
Could I confess to something?
Did you do that?
I had my vote in before the conference championship games because I thought it's unfair to give the candidates an extra game. It's kind of like voting for an MVP for a guy who's playing in the World Series.
Yeah, I got you. I know what you're saying.
How
yeah,
I did
okay,
it.
that makes sense.
Right.
That makes sense.
So
I was surprised that he was as distant a fourth as he was. As far as being a valuable player, he was an incredibly valuable player for OU and a huge reason they're in the Final Four. But the Heisman is for the best player in the country. I always take it that way.
Well, you should.
And to me, he's not the best player on their team. I think Samaje Perine's a better player. I think Sterling Shepard might be a better player. So just the way I look at it and the way I vote, I wouldn't necessarily have had Baker there. But the way most people vote, I think he was a contender, and I'm a little surprised he was fourth.
Remember when I made this famous prediction? If Samaje Perine is invited to New York, OU will be right in the thick of things for the national championship.
I think you said
well,
that,
I
yeah.
was incorrect.
But they're still in the thick of it.
I still think P. Ryan, like you, is the best player on the team. But here's why Baker Mayfield, in my opinion, is getting a lot of the love. Because we expected P. Ryan to be good. We didn't know what we were going to get from Baker Mayfield.
And a slow start for P. Ryan. But go
right,
ahead.
but we didn't know what we were getting from Baker Mayfield. He had to win the battle over Trevor Knight to get the job in the first place. So it was kind of a wait and see. And he just, I think even those who thought Baker Mayfield deserved the job are surprised that he has had this kind of success.
Sure.
So that's why I think he, like, how he didn't win the Newcomer of the Year award. How did he not get that?
Yeah, that was, well, he would have played at Texas Tech, I guess, a couple years ago, right? I mean, I'm not sure how the Big 12 does. We were looking at some of like his top 5 plays of the year, just the moxie in those 5 plays. The play against TU where he scrambled, but then he did the same thing against Baylor. And then the one I put in there at the end was him making the block on the Joe Mixon touchdown in Bedlam, and then chasing him down and jumping on him. It's that kind of stuff that has this OU team just loving the kid and following him. So he is, I think, their most valuable player, but I don't think he's their best player, and I don't think he's the best player in the country.
And I also think
either.
Sterling Shepard did a lot to help Baker Mayfield.
Oh, a ton. He is a really good player.
But Mayfield had a great season, and he will be one of the favorites for next year, along with Fournette from LSU.
LSU, without a doubt. So, yeah, we've got a couple weeks to – he's a good player.
Yeah.
Notre Dame shut him down a little bit, but it's still a very, very good player. I know. I'm not going to mention them anymore.
All right.
Oklahoma State playing a big game in the Sugar Bowl. Mike Gundy had a media availability Friday. I thought he had some interesting things to say. Let's go ahead and listen to what Mike Gundy had to say, and we'll react to it in just a minute.
There's no reason for these guys to not be motivated. They're playing in a New Year's Day Bowl. They're playing in the Sugar Bowl. It used to be a BCS Bowl. However big it wants to get, other than the championship, it's as big as it gets. So we have an upscale practice schedule. We have a couple more practices than we have had on a traditional bowl schedule for us, and we're going to practice hard here in Stillwater particularly, and we'll have a couple practices there, but we're going to get after it here and try to get ready to play our best game. Well, we need to play well for the conference, and you guys know we try to play well every game. It's important to us, but I don't think there's any question. We hear about it some, and we read about the importance of conference matchups in postseason and preseason games, and I think there's some truth to that. I don't think there's any question that we need to play well to give us a chance to represent our conference.
All right, so OSU feels like they're representing not only for themselves but for the conference, and in this conference you don't hear that a whole lot anymore. And I think folks in the Big 12 have about had it with being disregarded.
Sure, maybe they've had a winning bowl season, the Big 12 I'm talking about, within the last 7 or 8 years, but to be honest, they've probably only had one. They have not fared well in bowl games, and especially big bowl games, and especially against SEC opponents. In the Cotton Bowl, which was a Big 12 SEC matchup for the last 12 years or whatever it's been, SEC has dominated that thing. Gundy was asked about that, and I thought that was, I like the response. They're kind of saying, let's take on this challenge. It's time for us to win some of these games. It's time for us to win some of these games.
Is he saying that he's going to have some hard practices because he's mad at them as to the way they played the last 2 games? Because they were criticized for, especially when Mike said that they were tired.
Yes.
Football fans don't want to hear that their team is tired.
I thought that was the most interesting thing he said in the 12 or 13 minutes that he talked. Because when we hear Mike Gundy talk about practice, and he does this several times during the year, every year, what is he always saying? He's saying that we back off, we only work with our kids a couple days a week. He's all about keeping them healthy, and basically, I think openly talks about how they practice not as hard, or at least not as physically, as most other programs. Here, I think he's saying, we got to change this for the bowl game. We have some time to rest up. We expect to be healthy, but if we're going to go in there and beat an SEC team, if we're going to match up with Ole Miss, we got to practice physically leading up to this bowl game. I thought that was interesting because I think that helped turn around the season for OU after the Texas game. They began to practice more physically, and I'm wondering if Mike Gundy isn't coming to the revelation that maybe they got to do some of that if they're going to win the Big 12 title and not just go 10-2.
If he listens to his coach while he was playing college football, he will be more physical. Because Pat Jones talks about that all the time, that you need to be physical. If you want to be physical throughout the season, you have to practice physically. And I think Mike Gundy is, he knows that, but he was just trying his own system. And perhaps he saw that even laying off a little bit wasn't helping his team. In fact, it may have given them a negative aspect to it. And, you know, they got word today the Ole Miss defensive end, he's going to be suspended more than likely for the bowl game. I mean, you don't jump out of a hotel window, fall 15 feet, and then they find a whole lot of, you know.
I think some marijuana in the room. We don't know exactly what happened, but yeah, Robert Nikomdici, stud defensive lineman for Ole Miss,
don't
could be
anticipate
suspended
him
for the ball game.
Yeah.
You know, I think that for Oklahoma State, I've said this before on this program, laying off in practice a little bit and making sure that they were valuing health and keeping players healthy was probably smart for this program because they're not as deep typically as an OU or a Texas. But when you get to this point, and now you're going to take on a really physical team like Ole Miss, I think that it's the smart thing to do to get yourself ready in a bowl game like this. I remember a few years ago when Notre Dame played Alabama, Brian Kelly came out of that game saying we needed to practice more physically than we did leading up because what we saw from those guys was different. And I think that'll probably be the case for OSU unless they do this right.
All right, we need to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more. It's still halftime. New England leads the Texans.
Jack Cassey Ford's holiday sales event is on now. Right now, you'll find interest rates as low as 0% for 72 months or factory rebates and incentives on a wide variety of new Ford models. Jack Cassey Ford, south of Claremore on Highway 66.
Jack Cassey Ford.
Jason Garrett will not be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys in about a month.
Yeah. Only one win without Tony Romo.
Well,
so far
Jerry
this year.
Jones made some read between the lines comments last week, and I think he's starting something.
I
think he has started the fire. Which he usually does. But they are what, 4-9?
4-9. One win without Tony.
Technically still alive.
2 games out in the NFC East. But today was the death nail.
It's over.
Cowboys.
So what's next? So the Cowboys, over the last 5 coaches, we've had the guy who grew up through the ranks in Campo. We had Chan Gailey, who came out of nowhere. We had the tough guy at Bill Parcells. We had the players coach in Wade Phillips. We had the brain surgeon in Jason Garrett. So now, have we gone full circle now with the Dallas Cowboys?
I haven't even begun to think about whom they might hire. To me, you know, it's got to be a guy with head coaching experience. Right. You know, I don't think John Harbaugh's going to leave Baltimore. But, you know, if he was tired of that, he's won a Super Bowl there. I'd make a run at a guy who has been there and done that before and who can stand up to Jerry. But Jerry's probably not going to hire that kind of guy. I thought he had the perfect situation when he hired Bill Parcells. They drafted so well for years and years and years. And Jerry
who do you think developed Tony Romo?
Absolutely. Found him and a ton of other players.
Illinois,
a ton of other players, DeMarcus Ware and others. And I felt like Jerry thought Parcells would take too much of the glory and the credit. They were just about to turn the corner. Jerry saw that, and so he booted Parcells so he could get a little bit more of the glory. And it did. I mean, we saw what happened with Wade Phillips. They never did get over the hump, never did make a Super Bowl. He should have stayed with Parcells, and if he can find somebody like that, somebody who's been around, somebody who knows personnel.
Well, I contend that Parcells still been the coach. They'd be talking about at least some appearances in the Super Bowl.
Oh, I agree. Absolutely. Well, and I don't know how long he wanted to do it, but if I agree with you. They would have made it, I think, at least once. He knows the way. Basically, the reason the Cowboys have had any kind of success over the last 10 years is because of Bill Parcells. And I'm glad he left. I'm good with it. You know how the second half's already underway. Yes. We'll quickly say the Texas Sterling Gilbert thing was bananas, wasn't it? TU co-offensive coordinator Sterling Gilbert courted by Texas.
This is beautiful
in an amazing way.
And listen, I'm not trying to downgrade TU's football program one iota because you know how much I love TU.
We love it.
But when have we ever seen the University of Texas?
This was strange.
The president, the athletic director, and the head coach gets on a plane, flies to Tulsa to talk to a TU assistant coach who's not even the offensive coordinator, and has to talk him into accepting $1 million for 3 years, over 3 years, to come to Austin in a situation where we don't even know if Charlie Strong is still going to be the coach at this time next year.
This TU offense was much improved this year. This team won 6 games, which was a big improvement. But in some of the advanced stats like yards per play and things like that, it was not just an amazing offense.
Texas.
It was not Baylor's offense. Now,
Texas is
they're
such a
getting
fraud.
the Art Briles offense, not from Art Briles himself, but they're bringing the Art Briles offense to Austin. It's probably a few years too late.
Of course it is.
But this is a difficult
wanted the
offense to
Briles-
deal with, and with Texas athletes, it could be a bear.
They wanted
next
the
year.
Briles offense. Why didn't they hire Art Briles when they had the chance?
They absolutely should have, and there is no good answer as to
Most
why they did not.
underachieving university football program ever.
They're
You
flirting
didn't
with
miss
it right
anything
now.
in the game. Don't worry about it. We'll see you later after the game. Have a good one.
Big Al's Rant with Cayden McFarland, powered by Jack Casey Ford.